All right, everyone. Hey, we are back and we're here in the You're Not Broke, Just Blocked series. We've been doing this series for a couple of months. Myself and Emma Lyons, we definitely wanted to bring this opportunity to the WIN community. I also wanted to bring it to, my audience as well. Emma's going to share it with her audience. We want to talk to you about some things. From the last conversation we had, we talked about breaking those cycles and avoiding burnout when it comes to your business and your personal life. And I'm the Marketing Medulla. My name is Allegra Jackson, the Marketing Medulla. And I'm a business coach, a marketing strategist, business analyst. Love what I do when it comes to women entrepreneurs because we have the toughest roles, y'all. Like, we're the ones always holding the bag and everywhere from, I was literally just telling Emma how I'm helping my mom, in so many different areas of her life, right? Because as a woman, she took on being a mom, being a wife, being a caregiver. And, it doesn't stop for some of us. Once we become, what do we call it, Emma, when your kids leave and they're no longer at home? Empty nester.
The empty nest syndrome. Empty nest, yeah.
When you no longer have children to take care of, so for a lot of us as women, we end up having to take care of our parents. That's a thing. And so we have to learn how to be able to manage all of that. And so we end up being in these cycles a lot, taking care of ourselves and other people and falling into their cycles. I've seen that. We've had it where we've, just kind of hit burnout because we're just doing so much. And so we talk about this here because being able to manage that, that's where Emma comes in. And Emma, I want you to introduce yourself as always, because you get to guide us on how to really fine tune that mindset and that access to doing the things that are going to help us receive harmony, right? Because no one teaches us how to be all these things. No one knows all the answers. But being able to create a lifestyle and reality for yourself based on what you know is true about you, I think is so important. And so, Emma, go ahead and tell us what you do. And we're going to get into this conversation.
Yeah, hi everyone. Great to be back here, Allegra. So my name is Emma Lyons, like Allegra mentioned, and what I do, I work with female purpose-driven entrepreneurs, and I help them break through the inner blocks that I call them money blocks, but they're really so much more deeper than that. That really sabotage all of the tools and the great strategies that women have about how to move forward with their business. Because what I've noticed in my own business and with people that I've worked with is that the main enemy we have in our growth and success and financial empowerment is ourselves and our own kind of subconscious fears that cause us to sabotage and procrastinate and not do the things that we know are going to be able to move forward, even if we have all the best strategy and people like Allegra telling you exactly what to do and holding your hand. We don't do it if we've got these blocks. So we're going to stay tuned because we're going to break that down for you here. And yeah, if you have any questions, write them in the chat, let us know, and we will definitely come back and address you. So I'm really excited about this conversation. Back to you, Allegra.
Yes, thank you, Emma. And I appreciate that because we do have to have open dialogue about what all these things mean for us. And so thank you for what you do, because I truly believe that, and people don't know your story as well as some of us do, because I know that you studied to be a lawyer. And, there's so many people in these different positions where they're like, oh, but when you have a lot of money, you don't have money blocks. And it's like, no, like there's so many avenues to this mindset approach. And so I'm glad that we're able to bring that into these conversations. So let's talk about this. One thing I mentioned to Emma earlier, I said, outside of breaking cycles and having that approach to your burnout, right? Like, a lot of us came out of the holiday season doing everything for everybody, right? And I'm sorry, but this is so funny, Emma. I see a lot of us as women entrepreneurs, not only are we managing our households, which is like a whole business by itself, but we have our own businesses. And then we have some of us with 9 to 5s too. And then we go through this holiday hype, where like everything gets really crazy. And I think it's kind of like the Twilight Zone, right? Like once you get out of it, you're like, dun, like that happened. And now your brain and your body has to kind of catch up with each other. So I think that's why a lot of times we stop, doing what we started in the beginning of the year, because we're already kind of burned out. Like our brains really can't catch up with what our body's feeling. So number one thing that I noticed that I had to do in the beginning of this year, because the year did kick off really heavy, Emma. Like, I mean, I got calls from everywhere. Everybody all of a sudden wanted to do business. Sometimes it's happening, right? Like you start a new year and it's not about burnout of lack. Sometimes it's burnout because you have too much opportunity. Like there's just so many people and things coming in different directions that you're like overwhelmed. And now you're just like, oh my God, like I can't even think straight, like my brain hurts. I got headaches and I can't sleep because there's so many things wrapping through my mind every night. Not to mention if you have kids and other things happening. So I just, I really want to highlight that there's just so many components to that conversation of extremity over the holiday season, coming into these cycles of like, okay, we're in a new year and now we're burnt out. I think that getting proper rest, relaxation, making sure that you have things in place to support you, right? I think is really important, especially when it comes down to starting off with the new year. Um I took a long time in the new year, and I think you noticed that, Emma, where I kind of slowed down, right? And things weren't as like boom, 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 boom everywhere, right? And I think being aware of that and saying, maybe kind of evaluating some things that, we did in the last year and saying, does that need to be on the plate? That took some time to like sit down and think about that. And when we get time to do that in our lives, I think that gives weight to our own geniuses. And people go, oh, I had time to be creative. Like when you have time to sit down and think about what you need to reflect on so you can plan, even if it is the new year, just saying, hey, I'm going to take this day to just sit back and let my brain rest. That's something that was really important for me in the beginning of the year. And I noticed that that's what I started doing when it came to breaking cycles too, because you have time to re-energize and have a thought process. But another thing I noticed too, though, Emma, outside of that, was I had a lot of help. Like in the beginning of the year, I had a lot of support and a lot of things and people to lean on. And that's one of the things we started off by saying. And I think that that's what, for me, I believe has broken my cycles. And I'm going to lean into this a little bit more, because someone yesterday said to me, and I'm going to keep mentioning this because this is really interesting. They said, Allegra, you're not the same person you were 3 years ago. I was like, oh, absolutely not. Like, why would I be? Now, in my mind, it's matter of fact. But for them, they're just noticing a change and a shift of that. Now, the reason is because over time, you're supposed to grow, right? You're supposed to get better with time. You should improve on the things that you know or you don't know. And so when people realize that, and some people lose that as a negative thing, like, oh, you done changed. Tell people you're supposed to change. But over time, I've just realized that I no longer rush into things. I no longer just do things because it's supposed to be done. I no longer, right? Like those were cycles that I had. And so rest, relaxation at the beginning of the year helps break those cycles. But then I noticed that asking for help and constantly saying, I'm going to keep asking for help in areas where people told me no, or areas where people were like, yeah, I can't really do that right now. Right. And I'll break that down a little bit more, but I want to hear what you have to say about this, because that right there, how easy is it to ask for help? I want to pose that. I want to pose that out there for people to comment on it and to tell us, what they feel about that. And of course, start with your take on approach of our conversation. But if you don't ask for help, like if I didn't have the support that I needed this year to start it off, promise y'all, I would be dead in the water. Like, I would not be on this live talking like this, energized and feeling good about what my plans are for the year. I would be hiding behind the scenes. Like, y'all wouldn't see me probably for months. You know what I'm saying? And I would pop back out like most of these creators do and go, hey, hey. Right. So I think like that was really big for me, Emma. And it wasn't always easy to ask for help, but I'll elaborate on that a little bit later. I think I've talked enough about that, but let me hear your take on this part of the conversation.
Yeah, I think that's such a great point because as women, there's a whole lot of pressure that we put on ourselves, really, that we need to be able to do it all. And, that's the perfectionist thing and being able to do it right. And we feel like we should be able to do it all. And there's this kind of um, drive to prove that we're good and worthy and good enough by doing it ourselves. And that can show up in a couple of different ways. That can show up in not letting people, not delegating because you don't trust other people, or just not seeking the help that you need because you don't have time, so you don't prioritize it, or you might, like we were talking about. I think that's a big deal. People, we can get caught in these cycles where we just kind of get a bit addicted to complaining all the time. So we get to complain that this isn't working and that isn't working, but we're actually not actively doing anything to remedy the situation. I think that's really, really common for people because, people around us, we're in a world where people love to complain about things. So we love to fit in. And that means, getting on that complaining wagon. But truthfully, that's not serving you to move you forward with your business and with your own personal development, because both of those things are connected. If you're a purpose-driven entrepreneur, and if you're watching this, you probably are, then, your business is gonna be an extension of you. So, and that's often the last place that people look. The last place that women looked is to their self-care. All the focus is on out there, on fixing the business, on fixing that, on getting the strategy, on paying for this, on setting up this funnel. And the last place that people look is inside themselves. But without that being sorted, you're gonna be showing up wonky, like you said, Allegra. You're gonna be showing up out of alignment. You're not gonna be able to show up aligned and with integrity and really talk in a way that's gonna be able to connect with people, because you'll be disconnected from yourself. And I know what that feels like, certainly. I don't You're nodding, so maybe you know too, but I think a lot of women can get really stuck there. I know I did. And then there's this other thing where we kind of just I did this as well. I've done all of these things, right? Okay, so I'm telling myself where you get this, you try everything. You're trying everything. You're trying this solution, that solution. Oh, I'll buy this, I'll buy that. Oh, that's gonna save me. This is gonna save me. We're looking for the thing that's gonna be the golden pill. And it's just another way to avoid doing that deeper work and really working through our own fears that are the real roadblock to our success. So I think that's another trap that we can fall into. And I know the whole, if you go out there, if you're on YouTube or Instagram and you're going through all of these things, it's really tempting because every single person is promising that they have the answer for you. And a lot of the time, they're not really going to get to the heart of it if it's some kind of inner stuff that's getting in the way, as it is in so many cases, Allegra. I mean, I believe that the number one thing that stops people is not about the strategy and all that stuff, because we can find all those strategies on Google, but why aren't people doing them? People aren't doing them because they lack the belief in themselves that they can do it. They lack the drive, the belief in themselves that they can do it. And that really is the only barrier. And that's a really good thing, because that means that we can break through these things once we address those underlying fears that are roadblocking our success.
This is pretty deep, Emma. So many things came up for me while you were speaking, as they always do. And y'all, listen, this is a conversation for every single one of us. No one is exempt. When I talk about, and I hope you guys can hear me really well, because it looks like I'm breaking up a little bit. But when I think about just this conversation from a viewpoint of people that sometimes, that's why I would say you're not broke, right? Because like, listen, like you could have $0 in the bank and still be rich, right? Right. It's really about having that wealthy mindset and a concept of I can have it when I want it, I can get it when I need it. And I know that there have been some of my favorite wealthy millionaires and billionaires out there that have had this same conversation, right? Talking about the real wealth is in your lifestyle, the relationships you have, the type of life that you live, right? What do you do in between where the dash is? And I just love when even when we are talking a couple episodes ago about self-worth, right? We're like, there's a difference between, your worth and your value. You can't compare the two. And when we build up our understanding of that and really embrace it, I think that we stop making a lot of those excuses. Like you mentioned something that made me think about my incident that I said about with my mother. And I tell y'all, like, I'm such an open book. Like, you're gonna get the truth out of my scenarios because there were things in my life, y'all, that happened. And I was just like, it blew my mind. You know how you grow up and you're like, that would never happen to me. We all have these type of situations where we think it can never happen to you. So, yeah, I was that prideful thinker. And I think that it's so interesting to see how we as women have really like we have a conditioning to kind of like you said, take on this weight, this role of heaviness of like I can do it all and I want to be superwoman, and it's okay like that I'm struggling. I like the struggle. I've seen women do that, like where we're like, I like the struggle. That's not healthy to me because I think that for what I've seen in where we give more beauty to areas and places and spaces that are stress free, give us places to be spontaneously creative, right? Like where we can kind of nurture a space rather than, struggle with it. Like I know a rose can grow through concrete. I get it. A rose is still a rose, but I just believe that as women in business, and I've seen it. I've seen that we have created businesses where we've got to our multi millions, and we've been able to do it in a way where we just use our nurturing systems, right? Like you're welcoming. I was just interviewing Janine from Milkshake Martinis, and I was thinking about my conversation with her. She used what she had. She used her motherly, type of energy, and that created her relationships in her business. It created those special type of relationships that she has. So there are still a lot of struggles we have as women to kind of, I feel like, get in tune with ourselves, but we can use what we already have to really be productive and prominent. But I just want to say and that's the good side, but for the bad side of it is really where, because I want to say the good side first, y'all. But for the bad side of it, I think that we tend to do things so well, right? Like we have a nurturing side, but if we ever have to like pick up the bricks and build a house, we'll do that too, right? And I think that because I've seen a lot of that, especially in my culture, because Black women, shout out to y'all. Y'all be single mothers all day and proud of it, baby daddy every day, right? We say that a lot. And I don't know any other culture that do it like that. But it's funny how I'll hear a lot of that, especially generationally, in like my mother, right? Where she'll be like, "Oh, it's okay." Like for example, I think it was one time my baby sister, when she got pregnant. God, it feels so weird saying that, but when she got pregnant, right? And so in my baby sister's generation nowadays, they're like, I can kind of, order my baby stuff online and it'll come to my doorstep, right? So I can order the diapers, it'll come to my doorstep, order the wipes, it'll come to my doorstep. My mom generation, they had to go out, get the diapers, right? They had to go through like real labor stuff. And so some things that we were having conversations about in my mom's conversation, she would be like, oh, well, I don't understand why your sister don't want to do all this, what she needs to do. And I was like, well, what are you talking about? She was like, well, she needs to do A, B, C, D, E, and F, right? And I was like, well, she doesn't. She only needs to do A because A includes all of that now digitally, right? So my mom's used to this like lifestyle of like, this is how we did it, and it was hard. And I think that that can be a passed down trauma. I've learned that a lot of women that have experienced that. But I just want to say, because that between me and my mom, we are having that same dynamic when we have conversations, asking for help, because she was able to do A, B, C, D, E, F, and G instead of just A like we do it today. It's like to just do it that easily, to just ask for the help or just look it up on Google or to just get the answer because you hire someone, that's crazy to her, right? That's ridiculous because it was like it never came that easy for her and her generation. So I just wanted to highlight that story because sometimes we forget that we can be conditioned that way. And that's where a lot of things come from. And we are now in a new dimension where we don't have to do it the hard way anymore. And so, really reconfiguring that mindset is where I feel like now coming back and being able to ask for help when you don't have that new age mindset that my sister has, and you still have that mindset of, I got to do it the hard way, I got to do it this way because that's what I'm used to. Those are things that I believe, because I've seen it, are such heavy blocks that it stops you from being able to move forward in anything that you want to do in your life. And I'll stop there because I want to hear from you, Emma, on, what you have to say about that, because this is a generational dynamic too. This is not just about, being a woman or being a Black woman. This is like, I did it the hard way. I had to do it the hard way. That's all I know.
Yeah. Can you hear me okay? Because now I have really low bars on my internet.
Now you sound fine.
No. Okay. Right, so hopefully it'll come out okay. So yeah, I agree with you. I think the women, we have this idea that we need to do it all. We need to do it the hard way. And that means doing it on your own. I don't think it's I know what you were saying, it's something in Black culture, and I'm sure that's true. But I think women in general also have this idea as well that you need to kind of do all the roles and do all the things, or it's a kind of cop out or a failure in some way. So I think that's part of the drive to do it all. We're trying to prove ourselves our worth, because deep down we don't really believe that we are enough as we are. It kind of comes back down to this old nugget again of not feeling good enough or worthy, and constantly trying to prove it. And when we're constantly out there trying to prove our worthiness by doing things the hard way or by working really hard, that's a often it doesn't work out, because it's doing things the hard way, it can work sometimes, but a lot of the times you don't get the result that you want because you're not really aligned up with what you want. You're kind of you're in the forcing mode, you're in the pushing mode. You have to make it happen. And you're not trusting that you're supported. You're not trusting that good things can happen. You're very stuck in the negative when you're in that mindset. And that can make things very difficult, more difficult than it actually needs to be. So, and that's self-perpetuating cycle that we put ourselves in then, because we are unconsciously kind of creating this negative, this hard work. And, you know, when things are good in your business, I'm sure maybe everyone's experienced this at a time, when you get into that flow and you just find yourself in the right place at the right time, talking to the right people, things just come to you, things just fall. You're not trying to make it happen. You're not trying to force you're not out there doing hard work. And, you gotta work, you gotta put some energy into it. It's not like just sitting back and imagining. You've gotta put some energy out there in form of action. But it's really about getting lined up with that, and it doesn't have to be hard, and I think that's a huge mindset shift for so many people. We have this idea that it's gotta be super hard, that it's gotta be a struggle, but if you see people who have really succeeded out there, I'm just thinking someone like Muhammad Ali, he did the hard work, he did the hard graft, but he didn't talk about it as being hard. He was kind of excited about it. He was talking himself up all the time and saying, "I can do it." He wasn't like, "Oh, this is such a struggle. This is so hard," because that would have sabotaged his success. And I think that's where so many women we get in our own way. I lost you there for a second, but I think you're back.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you perfect.
Yeah, y'all tell us if we're breaking up at all. But Emma, you're speaking so many great things because Muhammad Ali is the bomb, y'all. If y'all don't know, you better find out because he was the greatest because he said it. I love how when we say and I've tested this out too. Um when I talked earlier about generations, I said, just to your point, Muhammad Ali had a mindset where he made it positive every single step along the way. He made sure that he spoke the positive into existence. He didn't say, "Oh, this is hard." He said, "This is easy." And it's like the same way
Yeah,
we say, is it easy to ask for help? It is easy to ask for help. You just open up your mouth and you say, "Hey, I need help with this." But one thing that I noticed, just the same way I described, right? Like I told y'all, I'm noticing, and I study generational marketing. So I'm looking at, how my mom is telling me, like, "Oh, yeah, that's, you got to do it the hard way. And, it's not as easy as you think." And I'm like, well, it kind of is, but in her mind, in her life, right? It's hard because that's her experience, right? But like my sister, it's easy, but we all still need to understand what it looks like to ask for help. And I think that's what sometimes makes it hard at first because, you just don't know what that looks like. Like for me, I was just a very why, like a curious why child. So I would always like ask why I got to do things all the time, those type of kids. And what I found through that situation was that they were just, I would always have to, find the right people to support me. Everybody didn't want to answer my questions. And so when I found someone who was very helpful, right? Like the one thing I will always be told is, don't be afraid to ask for help. Every person that I came across when I was like the wild child, it was like, don't be afraid to ask for help. It's good that you have questions. No question is a dumb question. These are things that I was told very early on because I was the why child. Okay. Everyone is not the why child. Some people grow up and they're very quiet, right? And you don't ask questions. So you never really have a chance to see what it feels like to speak up or to ask the question and get that answer you need. But asking for help requires, number one, you got to know what you need help with. Like, I think one of my biggest challenges, and this is where I started breaking cycles, was I needed to find the root of the why. Like, why am I experiencing this? Why do I like what's really happening? And it could be anything from like one of the biggest challenges I talked to you about, Emma, was the money challenge, right? Because I had things in my childhood that messed me up. So I had to figure out what money meant to me. And once I understood that better, I had to manage that. But I was going through cycles every single year, every paycheck. I would lose every paycheck. I would make the same money, but I would never learn how to manage it. And then I got a raise at work. And then it was like I still didn't have any money. And then, so like for a really long time, y'all, like
yeah,
I would just have all these issues. So it wasn't the amount of money I was getting because I was always getting more
yeah,
money, right? It
yeah,
was the fact that I was having these blocks and it was preventing me from being able to really be successful. And so once I understood that, okay, the reason I'm having issues because I really don't understand money. I had to get with someone like Emma. I had to get with someone who could say, the reason why you feel the way you feel whenever you get a paycheck and you go out and you start spending all this money here and there and there is because you don't really have direction for your money to go. So when you understand where where your money's supposed to go, it makes you feel a little bit more confident, right? You get to understand, like, okay, how much more money do I need to make in order to make that happen? And when I started to understand that part, y'all, then I started to realize, okay, that's how you know what to ask for help in. When you understand the root of your problem, because if I didn't understand that I had money problems to that point, I would have never hired someone like Emma. I would have never been able to say, who do I ask for help? Like, where do I go for help? What direction do I look into? So I just want to stop there because honestly, it is easy to ask for help. You just got to know what you're asking for help for.
Yeah, and if you're not sure, you can ask people to help you find what you need. You can ask. I mean, I've spoken to people, and I know you have too, Allegra. And if you're not the right fit for them, you point them in the direction of someone else who may be. And it's worthwhile reaching out and having those conversations just to kind of have feel it out and see if that person or that course or that program might be a good fit to solve your problem. And the only way to find out is to, to have that connection and to ask that question. And people are usually very good about, if they're not a good fit, most people who are really aligned in their business, they will tell you. And they'll maybe send you off to someone else who might be a better fit for where you're at and what you need. So it's so worth having those conversations rather than saying no before you even start. And no, lots of us do that too. We say no, oh, I can't afford it, or we say before we even know how much something costs, we cut it off there and say, I can't afford that help, I can't do that, I don't have the time, I don't have this, I don't have that. And that becomes the excuse why we don't even ask for the support that we need. And that means we end up staying in staying stuck for years and years rather than a week or a month. Some people, they spend their whole lives there feeling stuck in their business and stuck in their life because they never do that exploration to find the right kind of help for them. And that's so important. If you're feeling stuck, have some conversations with people and trust that you'll be guided and pointed in a direction that's right for you. And also I would say, trust your intuition. If you meet someone, if you're talking to someone and you just get this light bulb and you know that that person can help you, then follow that. Follow that guidance. That's guidance telling you, yes, this is the way forward for you. So always listen to that. And that's something that we're kind of trained to ignore. We're trained to kind of logic it out and think about the reason and think about the why you can't do that. And I don't have this and I don't have that and I can't afford it and blah, 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 rather than making a decision that you want something and then figuring out how you can do it to solve your problem. And that's where people don't make never make a decision to change. So before you even decide you want to do this work, you've got to decide that you want to change, that you want the help. And I think a lot of people, even knowingly or unknowingly, they're they're kind of they're kind of stuck where they are because on some level they are, oh, little kitty. On some level, you can get kind of addicted to these patterns of thinking and being.
I was
And
going to say that. Look at what I've put up here. Hold on, real quick. On the same page.
we can get so stuck there.
Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Emma. I just threw that thing up there real quick because I'm cracking up at how I'm thinking, y'all, listen, be honest. When I told Emma earlier, and I keep using my own situations as an example because these are things that happen in real life. I took a problem away from someone in my family that I told. I said, "You don't ask for help," and she was like, "Yes, I do," and I was like, "No, you don't. You complain about not getting help, but you don't actually ask for help." And I think that there's a difference there that we need to, internalize and acknowledge, because if it's like a mother or father or someone of authority, and you've been kind of watching that your whole life, of them complain and get their way, that can be, I think, a very because I learned that, like, just
Yeah.
keep complaining about not getting the help and somebody's gonna, like, help you. But that doesn't work. Asking for
No.
help is not making people guess how to help you. Asking for
Yeah,
help
there's
is Go
Yeah,
ahead.
there's no prince coming for you. I know. Have you ever had those thoughts? Someone's gonna come along and they're gonna take you on their white horse and they're gonna save your business and they're gonna show up everything's gonna be sorted. It's not happening. But we can have those fantasies that someone else is coming to save you. And no, the only person who can save you is yourself. But you've gotta ask for that help because, otherwise it's not coming for you.
No, but you know that this is what people are wanting. And so we just have to kind of break the lunacy. Because if you really look at any successful entrepreneur, I mean, I know I work really diligently in my business, but I know that asking for help was a challenge at one point. And not because I just wasn't, I've always been a great person. We're all great people. But when you have to ask for help, it takes vulnerability. It takes you being resistant, because you can't just go. Vulnerability meaning, like, you're telling someone you don't know something. That is big for some people, because I've been around a lot of people that they're just like, it's a lot of pride there. And to say that they don't know something, it's like breaking down a barrier, like a wall, right? And that takes a lot, because they may have, kind of been shunned in different ways. So now they have a student, and I know a lot of people like that. It's like, I like to say I don't know something, that's embarrassing. So they won't say that. So we got to be very vulnerable. You got to be very resilient, as to, like, okay, that person didn't have the answers, or that person was fraud, or, I asked for help, and I asked the wrong person. Like, and figuring, I think, the out through that process of what it's not just about who you come across. It's about you too. Like, how are you internalizing your choice of the matter? You choosing people, and how you're deciphering what you need. Because we said it already. Like, if you know what you need, it's easier to ask for help, because you're like, okay, I need someone to help me with my emails, right? So you're going to directly go to someone that's talking about helping you with your emails. You're not going to go to someone that's talking about SEO or blogging. Right? You're going to be like, emails. If you're like, I need help, but you don't know the root of the problem that you need help with, but you're just like, I need help because you know something's wrong, you just know something's wrong. Asking for help means that you have identified what you need help with. I think that is so important to say, because I run into so many inquiries of, can you help me? Of course I can help you if it's in alignment and along the lines of what I do in the business. But there are other things that you said, Emma, and we'll kind of, tone it down with this, y'all, because we're already down to an hour. And I want to say this, Emma, when we talk about, getting help, getting support, and all these things, like, listen, avoiding help is that kind of addictive. I feel like we get to a place where we do become very chaos heavy. Like, we're used to chaos, we're used to things being wrong. And so once we start to realize, like, I'll end with this, because this last one, how difficult is it? It's difficult to ask for help for a lot of us, from for a lot of reasons of what we talked about today. But I talked to you about the situation where I said I took a problem away from someone because they didn't know how to ask for help, but we worked through it. And once we figured out what the help they really needed, and I took that off their plate, what we found out was that it wasn't that that was the problem. Okay. They did need help, yes. But the root was that this individual likes to complain. They like to be needed. They like the feeling of, things aren't right and I always have to fix it. And some of us have that. Some of us have some real deep rooted issues of, I want to always find a way to fix a problem. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with being able to be a problem fixer, because I'm a problem fixer. But you got to fix the right problems. You can't be, repeating your problem over and over again just so you can have something to fix. And so I found that this is one thing that I want to kind of elaborate on next time we come, Emma, is talking about, more in depth on some of these issues we're experiencing, because and I would love to hear from your expertise with this one too. I was just blown away by the fact that we fixed the problem. She asked for help. We got the help that was needed, but it was like, even though the help was provided, even though there was no problem, there was something that she just kept having to bring up, something that was a problem that was not a problem, and it showed that we just want something to complain about. So
Yeah.
maybe that's why we don't ask for help. So I'll leave it to you for this last part.
Well, yeah, Allegra, that's exactly it. We get stuck in the drama because we as human beings, we're so used to drama that that's what we become familiar with. That becomes our emotional home. Having problems, having struggle, being in strife, being stuck, that becomes your emotional home, and that becomes what you keep creating and recreating in the shape in the shape of a pattern. And if you really want to change that so that you don't keep living that out again and again, you've got to get to the heart of why you're doing that. It's not enough to just, try something else, or find something new to focus on, because these things have a way to keep showing themselves in different areas of your life also, until you address the root cause. And so shows up in relationships as well as business. People maybe have the same partner again and again with a different face, meet the same narcissist or the same type of person again and again, or have the same kind of pattern in their business, until they address the root cause, which is inside them, that's attracting that. So that's the way we can look at it. It's not that you have a problem, it's that there's something inside of you that's kind of causing the brakes to be put on where you want to move forward. So it's like a break. I mean, we're for the point of for the purpose of this video, we're calling them money blocks, but really it's they're so much deeper than money. It's really, and I really believe this is what's sabotaging so many people out there, not just but particularly women, when it comes to business success and success in other areas. Because I'm sure I've mentioned this before, but your money and success, it aligns very often with love and relationships. So how open you are to receiving one is also going to be showing up in other areas of your life, because the way you do one thing is the way you do anything. So it's so important to address the underlying issue.
Wow, such a great way to really kind of come away with this. Give some hearts if you enjoyed this live today. I'm really appreciative of the time that I have with Emma to really give clarity to this area, because without removing the blocks and receiving, right, and being open to receiving, it's very difficult to run a business, especially if you're going to run it to support other people. I love being able to give other people jobs. Like, that's one of the biggest motivators for me, right? I get to help someone else put food on their table. And so when I think about this being able to receive, Emma, this is big. This is huge for us as women. Especially if we're going to be in this new phase, this new stage, this new ecosystem of being entrepreneurs. I've never seen it like this before. Statistically, we have been domineering all things, right? As soon as we got into the corporate world, we started dominating that. When you put us in different industries, we dominate that. You put us in sports, we started dominating that, right? Like we're just really good at what we do as women. And of course, when we have men supporting us in all of our areas, like we do here in the WIN community, yeah, this is where we hit gold. So I just always want to thank Emma for always joining me. Make sure y'all reach out to Emma to clear those mental blocks before you start the business, before while you're doing the business, after you sell the business, right? Because something you said in the end, and I'll stop with this. Um, your money, your business, your relationships, your health, all of these things are wealth points. You know, like money is just a construct. It's just a way to exchange value. But what the value in it is really what matters, right? And so like that's why when you have great relationships and you don't have a lot of money in the bank, that's why a lot of people are still wealthy. Because listen, Elon Musk was not stunning anything when he had to borrow, a few thousand or here and there from different people, mom and dad or whatever, right? When you see a lot of wealthy people, it's not just the wealth in their bank account. To your point, Emma, it's the relationships, it's the connections, it's the network, it's the how they live their life and how they even serve. Like these are things that we see all the time in a lot of millionaire situations. So we do have to get in touch with this, in tune with ourselves, y'all. Grow our own way. Every business is different. Every entrepreneur is different. And if you're in career and you're not into business or entrepreneurship, it's still important. You still have to do this work, and it is work. And so make sure you get the support you need. Anything else we need to leave them with, Emma, before we get out of here? Oh, wait, you're on mute still. Oh, can y'all hear her?
Thank you, thank you. Right,
Okay.
I would just finish up by saying, you know, you could practice what we're preaching here, and if you're feeling stuck, reach out to Allegra. If you're feeling stuck with, strategy, reach out and talk to Allegra, and if you feel like it might be something else, it's not about the strategy, maybe you've already spoken to Allegra, and she said you're not quite there yet, or you don't feel you're there's something getting in the way there. Come and have a conversation with me, and I can show you the possible ways forward, because you know it doesn't need to be hard, it doesn't need to be a struggle. In fact, that can be a real barrier to your success, those beliefs in and of themselves. So don't be afraid to have those conversations and to ask for help.
Yes, ask for help. Okay, we're gonna get more into this next week. We'll see y'all then. DM us, let us know. If you have any questions, we're here for that. And y'all have an amazing week. Bye. Don't be blocked.